On today's video, I'll be doing an update to a communications overview that I did several years ago. This will be a multi-video playlist. This first one is going to be the basics. The next video will be over simplex and repeater. The next video will be over satellite communications. The next video will be over cellular, and then mesh, and then receiving, so scanners and weather radios, items like that. To start, I've learned more in the last few years over communications, as I hope everyone does with whatever they're studying. And this basic video, I'd like to start with just what different communication options are out there that people just might not know about. And I'd like to start with non-licensed versus licensed options. Things have changed, especially in the GMRS world in the last couple of years. And that is one of the biggest things, I think, in this area of communication that I focus on with emergency preparedness is GMRS. That's definitely the hot new thing. And that has changed from something people didn't really know about. And I think thanks to Midland and some other companies, specifically Midland, I guess, they've been really pushing GMRS and GMRS in a legal way on how that's supposed to work. The next basic group I'd like to go over is simplex versus repeater. And all simplex means is you're just speaking radio to radio. So you're going to speak this radio and someone else has this radio, and you're just speaking point to point. The other option is repeater, and again, I'll have a video that goes in more detail, but basically, if you picture a mountain, you'll have someone on one side of a mountain and a big mountain in the way, and then someone on the other side, and they want to talk to each other with radios, two-way radios. The only way that's going to happen is you have something to relay up and over. And basically what a repeater does is, if you picture that mountain, it's another radio on top of that mountain that's hearing both sides and talking to both sides. Simplex radios, there are basically 6 from what I'm going to approach this video as. One is FRS, that's in the United States of America. The other one is GMRS, and that's in the US and Canada. PMR, that's Papa Mike Romeo 446, that's in England and European Union. Amateur radio, that's global. And business channels here in the United States. And MERS, Mike Uniform Romeo Sierra, which is in the United States. And I'll go in those more detail on another video. Then for repeater, basically, you have 2 different versions. You have that are common, I'll say that, for the civilian world. On top of that, you have GMRS, and then you have amateur radio. Repeaters are how your emergency services communicate. They're how lots of other industries communicate. And for the purposes of this video, for the civilian world, you have GMRS, which is this kind of side over here, and amateur radio. And those are your 2 basically repeater systems. And the benefit of GMRS is it's gaining a lot of popularity around the United States, and you have a lot of repeater options that you can communicate through if you know the club that's usually using that, because then they have to let you know what the PL tone is to get on that repeater. Next, as far as basics go, there is satellite two-way voice and text. This is a satellite phone. You have Iridium, which is truly global, that's pole to pole. You have Iridium push to talk, Iridium PTT. Again, that's fully global, but that basically works just like your phone, but then you press a button and it acts basically in the same function as one of these radios on a repeater. Then you have Globalstar and Inmarsat. Inmarsat basically has 3 satellites. They sit it's not truly global, it's not pole to pole. And then Globalstar is the United States, the contiguous United States. Then you have satellite two-way text only. That would be something like your inReach Mini or Spot, and how those are just text, but they do use a satellite network. And then satellite one-way text, these would be your Spot emergency or your Spot trackers, where you don't pair your phone with it, it just sends out a signal to the satellite network of where you are so people can track you, or if you get hurt, there's a button on there you can press and it'll go out. And then there's also the emergency locator beacons for sailing and aircraft or outdoor stuff, but typically they're in ships, sailing ships, or water-going vessels or aircraft, and I'll go over those more in that video. Next one we have our cellular two-way radios, and these are really popular. Zello is an app, and they also have physical radios you can purchase that go over an LTE network, and a lot of places will do this. ICOM has a series like this and some other companies, but it lets you use the cell phone network, and you can communicate anywhere else that's on the cell phone network, LTE, with that radio type. The next thing is mesh radios. This Gotenna is a mesh radio, and there are other ones like it. There's, I believe, Bearcom and Pathmaker. They all work differently, but I guess the premise is still the same. They have an individual unit. The more you add on that network, the further you can go, and that's basically the point of a mesh network. So if you think of like Google Wi-Fi or some other home Arrow, the home network system, the more you add to that system, the further your internet goes in your house or on your property. And these are the same thing. This Gotenna is text only, and you pair with your phone, and I've done a video on that. I'm going to do another video on it. But you pair with your phone, and you can text back and forth, see your location. There's another one, there's a few of them, but the one that's most popular is, I think it's called Bearcom, and it does it does text and voice messaging. It is not two-way radio, but you transmit a voice message through the system, through the mesh network. And then the other is a handheld radio called a Pathmaker from General Dynamics. It is a two-way radio that operates on 2.4 gigahertz, and you can text on that. And with a module, it also has GPS, and you can treat it like basically this is Gotenna, where the more you add to it, the further you can go. And same thing, it's digital also. The next category is cellular phones. I think a lot of us just assume everyone knows about that. There are some pros and cons to all of these, and sometimes cell phones won't work, and sometimes they're good to have because they're always on us, so we need to take advantage of those benefits. There are two basic ones for the purpose of this little series I'm going to do. Smartphones, so iPhones or Android style phones, and then basic phones, so flip phones, or you don't have to have a flip phone, but some of these are just dumb phones. They don't have apps on them. They can make phone calls. Some don't even text. Some do not have cameras. Some of them are just very basic. You can make a phone call, and that's it. The final part of this series I'm going to do is over receive-only options, and these cover radio scanners, kind of like this old school Radio Shack. Everything up to, I'll have a Uniden Home Patrol on there, and then also weather radios that receive. And I'll go over those options because those have a huge role to play in your communications plan. I hope you enjoy this series. I'm going to definitely take away what I learned from the first series of videos I did on this years ago, and add in what I've learned since then with these new items, and I'll make sure to bring in other items per category. So when I go over the mesh radios, I'll do a quick demonstration with the Gotennas. When we go over satellite phone stuff, I'll use the Extreme. I'll go over some of the features of the 9575, which is a really good phone, the 9555, and then the Garmin InReach Mini. All of them have their pros and cons, and I'll make sure to go over those. Same thing with these. I won't just have this radio, I'll have another mobile radio, and handhelds, I'll have some different ones, and be able to go through those different things. I'll go over the specifics on those types of radios. Thank you for watching.